The price is important, but I feel like it's more important is like how you make them feel and what they think about you long term. Like, my favorite question is always asked them so long, oh, I got my roof replaced in 2009. Okay, who did it? And they can't remember. It's like whoever knocked on our door had the best price. I was like, my goal is for you to remember me for the next 10 years. I got this lady, and she won't mind me shouting her name out. Her name's Miss Bosco. I'm pretty sure she's our top fan on Facebook on Here Roofing. She comments on every post. We went to her house a year later. She had our cutting board sit on our dining room table. She's just all about it because we built such a relationship with her. She's just a customer. But she referred us out. She talks about it. She shares her stuff on social media. And me and my dad opened Hero in 2018 with, it's like $1,400. And then it kind of, you did our marketing for years. It snowballed. We did 1.6, then, something, and 7. And then we became a $13 million, $13 million powerhouse. And then we partnered with an equity firm in 2024. I always said, if you a true roofing company, I don't want you to consider a business as a sales entity. I feel like if you just go out and sell claims, you sell, it's like replacements are really just a sales business. If you have a company that can really do everything from the gutter up, like place gutters, fascia soffit, roofing, and chimney caps, like that to me is a roofing construction company. And you have the same consistent work, crew. So I know this takes time to build. And I think retail residential business takes time to build. It takes, being ingrained in the community, advertising and marketing the right way.
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business.
Nick Branon, the mayor of Noonan, Georgia. Unofficial mayor. I coined you that many years ago. I love what you guys have done down there with Hero Roofing. For those of you that, for the audience that doesn't know who you are, man, tell us a little bit about yourself and Hero Roofing.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me back on, Jim. This is, I was excited when they reached out, like, oh, we need to have you on. It's like a third time. Like, I'm like a veteran on the podcast. I love it. Yeah. So, my background, my dad got cussed me when I was 9 years old, and they put me in martial arts. And so my first job, I worked in a karate studio. Then outside of high school, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I kind of bounced jobs. I was even in the film industry for a little bit, and I was serving and bartending when someone on Facebook was hiring for a roofing job. And so I took that for 7 months. I ended up being their top producer. And I was like, I think there's more to this. And me and my dad opened Hero in 2018 with, I think, $1,400. And then it kind of, you did our marketing for years. It snowballed. We did 1.6 and 3 something and 7. And then we became a $13 million powerhouse. And then we partnered with an equity firm in 2024. And now my dad is an avid fisherman. He's got a house on the lake at this point. So, it's been a journey. It's been a huge, great adventure. So it's been really cool.
One thing I want to point out, you guys are in Noonan, Georgia. So, I mean, you're not in like in Atlanta. Like, you kind of, I think your service area goes into the southern suburbs, maybe. Where you guys built this thing into an 8-figure business. What are the bigger towns around there, kind of population wise?
Yeah, great question. So we will service into like the suburbs of Atlanta. We've even done some jobs around and in Atlanta.
Yep.
And now we're focused on opening a new office above Atlanta. But yeah, we're metro. I'm like 45 minutes to the airport. So I'm probably like almost an hour to actual Atlanta, because everybody calls it the Atlanta airport, but it's, it's the suburbs of Atlanta. It's in College Park. Yeah. So our town, Noonan, I think the population now of like homeowners is in around 30 to 40,000. And then the next city over is Peachtree City. It's known for being a golf cart community. People can drive their golf carts all around the town. Same thing. I think it's around 30,000 people. And so that's probably our 2 biggest markets. And then, we kind of bump into Carroll, which is Carrollton and Douglasville. And, so this area is growing a lot. It's growing a ton.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, keep building apartments, and if you were to go build your own house in Coweta County, I think the rules is you have to build at least 5 acres. Like if you're going to build your own custom home.
Oh, wow.
But these
Okay.
developments will come in and put them on like half acre lots. It's crazy. So it's growing fast.
Yeah. So it's a fast growing area. But one of the things I want to break the mindset of people on sometimes is they have to be around all of the population, right?
Right.
Like it's a little bit crazy to me, and I just wanted to point that out. And I think one of the we've had this conversation on the podcast before, but one of the things that led to your success was your involvement in the community. And
Mhm.
I think it's harder to be involved in a larger metropolitan area. It's harder to get involved in the community maybe than the local, more of the smaller towns where you go to the parade, you can go down to Main Street and talk to people, you can do more things. But
Yeah,
so
it means
yeah,
more too. And,
yeah,
you think about it, if you're gonna sponsor the Peachtree Road Race in Atlanta, a lot of those people are coming in from out of town anyways, they're not gonna remember your brand. But when you sponsor the 5K in your local community, it's everybody in your community that's part of that, so those
yeah,
community groups have been huge for us. And I think too, like, I'm sure you can probably speak on the SEO side, how much easier it is to win in your own in a smaller town versus trying to compete in Minneapolis or competing in Atlanta or competing in like Houston, for example, when it comes to
yeah,
SEO.
yeah, definitely. It's a big difference. There's a
Yeah.
big difference. Google has less uh less to think about, right? They have less options to choose from as who to show in that market. And so, um, like everyone, though, we were having a conversation the other day, like everyone, 2025 was a little bit of a strange year, I think.
Mhm.
How was it for you guys? What did you see? What were some of the things that you did to combat what you saw in the marketplace? What was going on in 2025?
Yeah, I think we combated a lot of things in our market. One, there wasn't any heavy storms. We're not I say a necessarily a huge storm company where we're servicing insurance claims all year round. Like, and they're trying to, most of these guys are door knocking, trying to find the last storm and file a claim or that. We're a retail business, but when a storm happens, we service that storm the right way. We do, emergency tarping, we handle hail claims. We have a whole claims process and we do it well. But there was no storms last year really that were significant enough to cause damage where homeowners were really like, you know, calling. And then you look back at 2023 when we did have a large hailstorm. I think they said over 2,000 roofers came into business in Atlanta that year. Um, so what that did in 24 and 25 was cause them to really suffer and try to stay afloat. So retail got super sharp, uh, and companies that are on paper to the consumer may look just as qualified as us or trying to do jobs, they're paying last month's bills with today's job, uh, and so pricing got really competitive. But, the things we doubled down on was our culture, our community. We stayed on social media. We stayed in the events. We continued to network. One thing I did this year, actually recently, is I started my own networking mastermind with local business owners, and that's been something that's been really cool for us. So we just doubled down on our resources, and we stayed competitive in front of the homeowner when it came to pricing. Being PE backed, it's got its pros and cons. One of the cons is none of the competitors understand what that means. They like to think they can use that to, so homeowners say, "Oh, Joe's Roofing said you sold out," and I'm like, "Well, I'm working today. I'm here at the office." I said, "We didn't sell it. What this means is that we're backed, and while Joe could go under any second, nothing's going to happen to us, and our warranty actually means something." So they're going to be scared about what they don't know, and and so we've taken those lumps on the chin, and we're real honest with our consumers, and people have loved it. They don't defer from using us. We want to service our community, and we're able to do that at a larger scale now. So it's been really cool.
It's funny how competitors will always try to find something to say.
Oh yeah,
Right? It's always like, "Hey, well, no, don't use them because of," right? And before that, it was something else. And then
right.
once you guys were, joined the PE group, now all of a sudden that's a thing to say, but
Yeah, before don't use them. They just started a business. They're following someone. Know what they're doing. Uh, just and then we grew. It was like, oh, don't use them because they're too big to handle your problem. Now it's like, oh, don't use them because they're financially backed. So,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever at the end of the day, the consumers don't choose what they feel the most comfortable with, and I think that's what's important. But
yeah.
yeah, roofing, I think I don't got the right statistic in front of me, but I've heard some numbers been thrown around. It was down nationally like 20% or something like that this year.
Mhm.
I've heard it from the suppliers. We were just on the ABC trip earlier this month, and it was roofing companies from the southeast, and everybody, like, some of them hit goals, but they were all down, and none of them did what they expected. And we saw that across our platform. We're still growing, and we have some companies that did really well this year and crushed their goals. But you see it across the nation. Everybody was a little down,
Yeah,
took a dip, and it's a weird year without storm patterns. It's a weird year with politics, and the consumer
yeah,
doesn't know. They hold on to their money as much as they can. But I
that's
think
for sure.
we're blessed to be in an industry that is, it's a necessity. It's not like selling a new cell
Yes.
phone.
Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Roofers, let's get real. You're great at building roofs, but are you great at building a steady stream of leads? That's where Job Nimbus Marketing comes in. They know the roofing industry inside and out, and they'll help you dominate Google, Facebook, reputation management, and everything in between. If you want more quality leads, more booked jobs, and more growth, visit the link in the description or the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website.
It's a necessity. It's not like selling a new cell
Yes.
phone.
Definitely. One of the things that's what it sounded like, and you've done this well, and we've talked about it on the podcast a little bit, but I was doing a session in the RSRA couple, maybe a month or so ago, and it was kind of like a what to do first. What would you do if, right? What would you do if you were a startup? What would you do if this? And I think the thing that people overlook, and where you and your father did an exceptional job with, is people overlook the relationships.
Mhm.
And you went out and focused on that and built relationships. You went door to door also. You were banging doors, you were doing all of the things. You were doing your digital marketing, you were doing your, canvassing, you were doing everything. But to me, there's something that gets amplified when you have those relationships. It's that one-to-many relationship. So as you're building out this local business group and helping other people in your area, and masterminding and things like that, my goodness, how that has to come with some outrageous exponential value, right? Like some goodwill that comes right back to you. It blows me away how many contractors don't do that. They don't go out and just build those personal relationships.
I think it's the most important part of business, because
Yeah.
that's what helps your business, continue to thrive and be around, is having folks that know and trust you. And I mean, we have, there's a realtor in our mastermind, and even before we added her to it, I mean, she's a broker with a good sized team. She's getting us 15 plus roofs a year, right? And then same thing, like you had the tree company, you know what I mean? And we're outwardly referring that person on social media as well and telling them, like, hey, this is who we use. And and then same thing, like relationships with the customers. You got to create a relationship there. We have a gifting process when a customer closes out with us. We have a follow up. We want that. We want them to follow us on social media. We ask them to at the end of it. So it's like, how do you create a relationship and an experience for everybody that interacts with you and your company? So I don't look at it more as just a transaction and dollar sign. I think that's the most important. So many roofers get just so fixed on the price.
Mhm.
And the price is important, but I feel like it's more important as like how you make them feel and what they think about you long term. So my favorite question is always asking someone, "Oh, I got my roof replaced in 2009. Okay, who did it?" And they can't remember. It's like whoever knocked on their door had the best price. I was like, my goal is for you to remember me for the next 10 years. I got this lady, and she won't mind me shouting her name out. Her name is Miss Bosco. I'm pretty sure she's our top fan on Facebook on Here Roofing. She comments on every post. She does, we went to her house a year later. She had our cutting board sit on our dining room table. I mean, she's just all about it because we built such a relationship with her. She's just a
Mm-hmm.
customer, but she's referred us out. She talks to about it. She shares our stuff on social media. It means a lot to create a community around your business.
It does. And it gets there's such a short-sightedness
Mhm.
that happens. And I get it. I'm sure you experienced it when you were starting out too. It's not that, or even last year when you probably had some big goals on the board and you're like, whoa, we're not hitting these goals. Everyone seems to go towards like, okay, what's the easiest way to get leads in the door? Not what's the best lead source long term, right? Like it's this weird thing that we do. Of the companies you coach, how do you help them establish that in their business, or what do you recommend to them?
Yeah, there's a few different platforms there. So I'm with Deshaun and the Hustler Academy, so that's a
Yep.
one call a month leadership call I'm able to do, and we have different topics, and that's really coaching to the masses. But what I like is a couple guys I'm working one on one with, right? And for example, it's one business owner. He's newer, and so he's trying to a couple of these guys are actually newer and they're trying to scale or trying to hit a certain revenue dollar. So what's important is making sure they have the right systems and processes to handle that growth, and to scale to where they want to be. But the other thing is like building a customer service and customer experience around the process, and helping them identify places where they can be involved into the community. It's not just about setting up the home shows. Like I always make the joke about like we do a chili cook-off every year where we go to and you'd be surprised our roofing company is one of the best chili the last 4 years in a row in downtown Noonan. But uh, there's thousands of people at that event, and they're coming up asking us for information and brochures and talking about a roofing brand. So we look for same thing. When I'm consulting, I'm looking like, hey, identify with the ways that you can be involved in your community more. Identify ways that we can improve your sales process and your customer experience, and even like how you close them out and that last transaction is completed. And then we look
Mm,
for things like how to quote what your margins are like, all that. It's a full it's a full process. I like to consult a lot on the sales and the marketing for sure, but I like to help with the systems and processes just as much.
yeah. One of the things I thought of when you're talking about your mix of retail and storm, retail first, but if a storm comes through, you have a plan of execution for when a storm comes through. You know the insurance process, you know how to work it, you know how to get to the doors, you know how to work a storm along with your retail. How do you balance your margins and cash flow management between the two? Like how do because you don't know the storm is coming. You don't know what are some thoughts on that?
Well, I think residential retail needs to be everybody's bread and butter. Like that's what they should bank their business on, knowing how to sell roof replacements and selling roof repairs or whatever it is. I always said if a true roofing company, I don't want you to just consider a business as a sales entity. And I feel like if you just go out and you sell claims, or you sell replacements, you're really just a sales business. But if you have a company that can really do everything from the gutter up, like replace gutters, fascia soffit, roofing, and chimney caps, like that to me is a roofing construction company. And you have the same consistent work, crews. So I know this takes time to build, but and I think retail residential business takes time to build. It takes, being ingrained in the community, advertising and marketing the right way. Like we think about the omnipresence rule, like you said in the beginning. Like I didn't just knock
Mhm.
doors. I didn't just dump money in digital marketing. Spread my resources. I did all of it because, it takes the average consumer, 7, 8 times to see your business to remember you. They're going to call and say, I saw you on the billboard, but really they heard us on the radio, saw our Facebook ad, Googled us and saw our reviews. It took them a few different ways before they reached out. And so that's always been my mindset is how do I spread out how many yard signs I can, how it gives me doors knocked, how do I advertise on Facebook, how it gives me Google reviews. Like I want to spread out my resources so I look like a big brand in my community. And people always thought
Mm,
we were way bigger than we were before we even the size we were today. Um, but when we focus on our goal, we really look at how much can we do in retail and residential, like how many leads do we need to create that way, And I feel like the storms can just help you, almost like hit that goal even more or surpass it, so to speak. It's kind of
Yeah,
like the icing on top. I mean, if you're in a storm market, it's a little different. If you're in St. Louis,
that's
Missouri,
right.
you can bank on a couple of hailstorms a year. But if you're somewhere in Atlanta or Alabama, you may get a tornado or a hailstorm, you may not. And so I think there's too many businesses that bank on the claims.
Yeah, definitely. And so you're setting your goals based on your retail,
Mhm.
and you're you're building your margins in your business based on your retail. I know some contractors that I talk to, they're like, look, man, this is the price, this is the price. Some of them are like, well, on a storm job I'm doing this, and on a retail job I'm doing that. How do you guys manage your margins between the two?
I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today.
How do you guys manage your margins between the two?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so we have in our CRM, we have retail templates made, and the reps have a window that they can quote in between. We create good, better, best. When we get an insurance claim, it gets approved. We're going to put that claim through our systems too and see what margin it's at and say, hey, homeowner, your insurance paid this. And for that, we give you this package. If you want to pay for upgrades, you can.
Got
So
it.
we try to
So you're
keep
working it backwards. Like, here's our retail model. This is our margin or our packages at good, better, best. Our margins are this. Okay, insurance company gave you this. We're going to say, where does that fit into our good, better, best? And then have a conversation of, well, that only fits into the good. So, we see a lot of people upgrading to this.
right.
Is that something? So,
Yeah.
how
So we
often do you
can
think you
sell
get?
difference.
Yeah. How often do you think you get upsells on storm work?
Oh, a good bit. And, sometimes if you got
Yeah.
to negotiate with a customer, we can do that as well. And in our market, we have a lot of good old boy systems where, it's a lot different if we work the claim for the homeowner, we meet the adjuster, but sometimes we call it out and the homeowner is like, my claim got approved, give me an estimate.
Got it.
And they're holding that quote. And most roofers are like, oh, I got to see the estimate, I'm not doing the job. You know what I mean? And they lose the
Yeah.
business. I'm like, hey, here's my estimate. But if you pay me, I'm not handling your insurance claim at all. We do what's called a rapid retail process. We have as an option. It's like, hey, we'll give you an out-of-pocket quote. You pay us when the job's done. Insurance is paying you because you negotiated pricing with them. We're not talking pricing at all. Um, those type of homeowners, they pick that. The lady that's, she don't know anything about her process or claim. She don't got the money to front it. She can barely come up with the money for deductible. Those people who worked a claim for them. And so that's been a really cool. It helped us out a lot in 2023 because claims are moving so fast. Adjusters are writing checks out in full. Homeowners were getting checks, and they were basically just shopping contractors. And we were getting a
Got
job
it.
because we were the only contractor saying, "Here's a quote." And we
Yep.
know what insurance is paying in our market. We know what margin it comes back at. You know what I mean? Like it's not. We can even run a quick Xactimate and say, "All right, here's our retail price, but you're paying us when the job's done." So it was really good for cash flow.
That's fantastic. I want to dig into this a little bit. So, from a marketing perspective, we call them buyer personas or avatars, customer avatars, right? And there is a customer avatar for a good. There's a customer avatar for a better, and there's a customer avatar for a best. There are certain characteristics about them. There's the person that just cares about price, right? And what I heard from you is that you in dealing with customers in your market, you started to hear something. you started to hear this. Well, we just got a check in hand. We want an estimate. And I don't know if you did it on purpose or not, but you developed a program for them,
Yeah.
right? Like, so now you know who they are, you know, and so now you can sell them what they are looking for, where a lot of people are going to get stuck there, and they're just going to hit a brick wall on that and say, no, this is what we do. This is what we do. How did that come about? Did you think about it consciously, or was it just like, hey, let's just do this for people?
Well, I got a couple different ways. I got tired of chasing supplements in 21 off of a storm
Yeah.
on homeowners that weren't really helping you get the supplement or getting paid. Those specific clients that were just, they're like, you're done with a
Mm-hmm.
job. Like, insurance hasn't paid me yet. And I just like, they weren't being an advocate for me, honestly, on the contractor. And a lot of people don't talk about it. Everyone's like, oh, I'm an insurance claim specialist and I'm going to work the claim for you. And then you guys are waiting. It takes y'all 6 months to get paid. And I hated that. And there's customers we definitely want to help with the claim, and we do. You know what I mean? That's not what we're saying. But for that customer that doesn't want that help and just wants the price and wants to move on, it's there's more money in time management. You know what I mean? Closing a contract
Mm.
out and getting that cash sooner than later. You take, say it's, especially if you're fighting for $1,000 supplement. If it takes me 6 months to get $1,000 and the resources it took, I make way more money to close it out at 12 grand today than 13 grand 5 months from now. And so we learned that in 21. And so we kind of started developing that rapid retail model. And at first we would give homeowners the option, which one they wanted to choose. And then we kind of just started, like you said, what type of homeowner is this? And then we kind of tell them what processes we have. But it really works for the client that already's got the quote, because everybody thinks they have to work off the scope. They think they're claim specialists. I'm like, dude, that's him with State Farm. I haven't talked to State Farm. I'm not gonna talk to State Farm. He can decide what he wants to do with his claim. It's his home. It's his policy. He owns it. If State Farm decide they want to pay $15,000 to him, you know what I mean? Like, that's between them. And so I'll go ahead and say, hey, here's our bid. And a lot of times, like I said, he'll be like, man, this is exactly the same amount of money I got from insurance. I'm like, yeah, I'm a little dumb. Like, but
It's amazing how that works, how we
a
know what
lot of
insurance pays,
homeowners just
right?
want a fact check. That they got a quote from it, and some of these adjusters are now telling homeowners to get 3 quotes. You know,
Yes.
they're telling them to do it. And so why argue and say, no, I need to see your scope of work first? Why, because then they don't trust you. And I even use it as a selling tool back. If the homeowner is between me and the other contractor, and the guy's like, well, the other contractor has to see his scope. I'm like, well, that means he doesn't know how to make an estimate. And they're like, what? I said, he's got to see someone else's estimate to make an estimate. Like, he doesn't know how much materials and labor costs. You know what I mean? And like, that sells them every time. Cause I'm like, it's just like, how professional are they if they can't make an estimate on their own without comparing it to the insurance company?
That's right. Yeah, and again, now you're finding ways, right? Like, they're trying to call you, the big PE back company. You do, like, well, they don't even know how to write an estimate. Like, we all have our ways, right? We got to have that conversation at the kitchen table. That's awesome, man. What, do you think that led to, like, your having a model like that? I don't know where I want to go first, because I think that this kind of leads me to what might have made you attractive to a PE type of platform, because of your business model of being retail first, but having the, like, understanding storms really well and understanding how to sell in them, and doing all of these more unique things than other storm chasing, or than a storm chasing company would do.
Yeah, I learned a lot from that 21 tornado. Like, what went well, what went wrong, what was stressful, what the homeowner found stressful. And, the first thing I'll say on the retail side is, yeah, PE, like, they're attracted to retail business because it's more stable. If a
Yep.
company's been, doing, if they're a $15 million corporation, they've been doing steady retail year after year. They know what they're going to do next. They can follow their numbers. But the insurance is a little bit more up and down and not as consistent. And then do they really have a business if there's not a storm? You know what I mean? Like, are they, could that put them under, or could their sales drop by 50, 60%? And
Yep.
so, most PE companies today, for guys that are looking to sell, they're looking for steady retail companies. This is what they're attracted to and what they're looking for. And we just had a really good sales process. And my sales process is due to so many people. There's parts in it from Chuck, there's parts in there from Deshaun, there's parts in there from Adam, and then I flip my own spin and I've added things that I like about it. But
Yeah.
it's took me 7 years to develop what I think is a really great sales process. And on the storm side, like I said, we learned what went well in 21, what didn't go well. And so, like, one thing we do is we do a storm letter that's signed by me to every customer in our system. When a storm, like when a huge catastrophe hits, here's a letter goes out to all of our leads and prospects. And when they get signed and when they go into our system, say you were already a prospect on schedule and you didn't have storm damage. You're gonna get that same letter, but then you get signed up today because you do get storm damage. That letter goes out to you too, and it's just say, hey, we thank you for your patience. We want to help every homeowner in a timely manner. If you got anything that happens, emergencies, or a water leak pops up, from the tarp, call this number. So we have this process. This letter goes out, and the reps are called. Like, we have a system for each part of it that goes through that keeps the homeowners kind of at bay. And the biggest things we try not, we take on as much work as each of our guys can handle. A lot of storms, these guys just overload themselves and then drop some of it and lose some of it. You look at the storm, you see how many houses are impacted, and you see how much of that percentage you can handle, and then that's your target to go for.
I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. If you and your team aren't trained on AI yet, you're already falling behind. Competitors using AI are generating more leads, closing jobs faster, and running leaner. The AI roofing revolution gives your team the training to implement AI so you stay ahead, not scramble to catch up. Don't wait until you're losing. Get trained now at the link in the description or the sponsors page of the Roofing Success Podcast website.
Look at the storm, you see how many houses are impacted, and you see how much of that percentage you can handle, and then that's your target to go for.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, a lot of times when someone does that, they end up selling a lot, but it's not that they build that, right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
what I'm saying. It drops off.
like it could drop off significantly if
We've done so much work the last couple storms from, there's a yard sign in the yard and everything. We get there and, like, I haven't heard from my roofer in 3 weeks. I'm like, well, I guess and they cancel them and work with us because they can't handle it. They don't have a process.
They
in
can't.
place.
That's right.
We have to know we have to know, and we talked about this on the phone today about growth. Like, what do you want out of growing? And if you grow too heavy, can you handle that growth? Because you may end up
Yes.
losing money from it, and that's something that people don't think about.
Yeah, that's something to have a conversation around. What have been some of those challenges that you've run into along the way as you've gone from 1 to 3 to 5 to 12, to 13? Like, what were some of those things you didn't expect at each of the levels? Like, whoa, this was a problem we didn't see coming.
Then the biggest thing that I didn't expect that people don't talk about a lot is once you go over a certain revenue size, the insurance companies that you're insured with start paying you a lot more attention. So what I mean by that is once I got over 7 million, I just stayed in workers' comp audits. It's one of the main reasons I wanted to partner with PE. I was so stressed out by the workers' comp companies just consistently hitting us with audit after audit and trying to find whatever they could. And I learned it's just a revenue size. They don't really mess with the smaller businesses as much, but once you get to a certain size, you have some employees under you. They want to, and there's better workers' comp companies than others out there for sure. And we ended up getting a really good one before we partnered. But prior to that, man, we just stayed in workers' comp audits. I had one that tried to audit me for $360,000, and I fought it for 7 months, and I, got it down to zero basically because it wasn't legitimate. But that was one of the biggest things I didn't expect. And then just how there's different levels of overhead. The more revenue, the more staff you need to manage it, the more people you need, and you don't want to be understaffed. And so your salaries can really creep up on you before you know it. And I look back, there's different, I think me and you talked about this. Some of these, I know a guy in Charlotte It's him and his wife. They do $3 million a year. He's a sales guy. She does the operations. So he's selling like $300,000. This guy's getting it. He's a killer. He used to be a Navy SEAL, really nice dude. And I mean, they're making more money than most people are making at $10, $12 million a year, because they've kept it lean. And a lot of people have to respect that. Like, what do you want out of growth? Like, if it's more revenue, sometimes it's better just to improve your systems and your margins and to make your machine a little bit leaner. If it's because I want a hands-off business, I want to be able to step away for 2 weeks at a time, or if it's because I want to partner with PE, then maybe growing your gross revenue dollars is more important to you. That's the things that
Yeah.
people, because that would be probably the one downfall that he has with Charles. He doesn't get as much vacations as he would like, right? I'm sure he's gonna retire extremely fat. So
He could come up to Minnesota and just have winters off. That'd be,
yeah,
it's like it's a forced
forced
vacation.
vacation, spending in the Bahamas. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Um, in those workers' comp audits, man, this is something that you don't hear talked about. It's very, but it's something that could cause huge issues,
Mhm.
and huge cash flow problems in your business. What's some advice that you have about dealing with workers' comp audits? How did you
Well,
get that to zero, right? Like,
yeah, a lot of due diligence, and I even had to kind of I did most of it myself, but I did hire a lawyer to kind of help go through all of our workers' comp processes. But even like on the front end, there's a website, and I shared it. I actually did a coaching call yesterday, and it was on the top 10 things that bulletproof your roofing business. And
mm,
the biggest things was uh, master service agreement with your subcontractors. It separates yourself from OSHA safety liability, separates yourself from insurance coverage that says you have to have workers' comp coverage, general liability coverage, commercial auto, and then and then if you don't, we're not going to cut your check until it's reinstated. And then if we get audited and we paid you check when you weren't covered, then you're going to end up having to pay that fine. And so that's been a huge help having that policy. That's helped us a lot with OSHA showing up at the job site too. They're like, "Hey, your guys aren't in harness." I'm like, "Those aren't my guys. Here's the substance." You know what I mean? Like, here's our master service agreement. It saved us $18,000 one day. With
wow.
so it was a 412 and a dude didn't have a harness on. You know what I mean? It's like, who wears a harness on a 412? But it's it was one of those things where OSHA showed up and we had to let them
Mhm.
know that, like, hey, we're separated from that subcontractor. Um, there's that one lawyer you may have heard talk to him before, but he sounds like a cool Colonel Sanders, wears cowboy hat, and he's done a lot of he used to be at like the GAF Expo and stuff, and he's been at some other roofing events. He talks about construction safety,
Mm.
and he shared the example of he represented a client in Florida, and the subcontractor ran a stop sign ahead of school bus. And because that subcontractor had their roofing company's shirt on, they sued the roofing company. And so we all give our guy, they can wear GEF branded shirts or Owens, whatever the brand you guys use, but we don't actually
Oh, I see.
we don't put them on our uniform, because if they get hurt on the job, they get hurt outside the field, they can be looked at as an employee, classified as an employee. So there's things like that we've done to keep ourselves safe. But with the audit moving forward, there's a website, and I'll try to get it before the end of the call, that now when we when we have to pay a sub, we check right there and make sure their insurance is valid before we cut them a check.
Nice.
Because, they can give you a
Yep.
COI in the beginning of the year, 6 months later, if
Yep.
putting on their insurance and it's expired and you paid them 20 grand, now you get fined, or you get audited.
Yeah.
So that's helped. But we had to go back through that audit and make sure what they were finding us for was the right classification for what the labor was doing. And then what we did is, some of those guys are turnkey, so we separated labor and materials. And then, like I said, they had, our a painter in the wrong, they were trying to classify him as a roofer. I'm like, he's not a roofer, he's this. And so we had to just fight them and go back and forth uh, for 7 months. And it really just took a really good lawyer and a lot of time from me. Uh,
Yeah.
took a lot of time off, for me to do that.
And if you're if you're in a position where you don't have a team to manage that also, boy, that's all consuming.
Oh yeah.
Not just in your time, but mentally, right? Like those types of going through that type of audit, like it's, those are the things that could keep you up at night. you know,
Yeah. I
did you
understand.
go back to
I
martial
went,
arts and you know what I
I
mean?
went
Like
from,
punch it
I
out
went,
a little bit, get
uh,
some rage out.
yeah, I've been starting to hit that some more. No, I mean,
Hit
that's,
pads a little more. Yeah.
I went from the stress of a storm to the stress of an insurance audit. And then I went through due diligence with the equity, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
though that's some stress too.
So I
Yeah.
just went boom, boom, boom. And now I'm like, all right, I can chill for a little bit. This is interesting. I don't know what to do.
Uh, one of the things I wanted to talk about was, I think something that people miss on the retail side is repair work. It blows me away how many contractors don't do repair work, and then like how many won't even go out and have a conversation with a homeowner over a repair call. I mean, I've listened to I don't know how many thousands of calls to roofing companies over the years, right?
Mhm.
And my goodness, the amount of people, because again, we said this so many times over the years, but like no one wants to buy a roof, right? So they call for the repair. How have you built that into your process and into your sales process?
I almost feel like repairs should be the first place you start because when a homeowner calls the office, they don't say, hey, yeah, it's been 20 years. I'm just want you to come replace my roof now. They like, hey, I got a leak, or I know something in my attic, or there's a shingle on my driveway. They tell you what they've noticed, and they need you to go there and find out what the problem is, and then provide the solution. And that solution may be repair. That solution may be repair and rejuvenation, or that solution may be a full roof replacement, right? And so we start there, and then we figure out what we need to do. I will say with sales guys, it's a little more challenging to teach them how to sell repairs correctly than it is to teach roof
Hmm.
replacements. But we start teaching them that because if they can sell a repair, it's kind of like you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. If you can sell a repair, you can sell a roof replacement. Um, but yeah, we love repairs. There's a company on our market that they have a 5,000 like minimum charge. Like if you do business with them, it's got to be at least 5 grand or more. And so a homeowner called us and like, hey, we called so and so, but they won't come out unless it's 5,000 or more, and I just need a repair. Will you come out? And it was a 90 square discontinued shingle. It was a $45,000 roof. Like, thanks, dude. Appreciate you not wanting to even come
Thanks.
look at it. You know what I mean? Like,
That's right.
because
Yeah.
they don't do repairs. And so it's you can use this phrase everywhere, like crumbs turn into cookies. Like repairs will build so much volume in your business.
Mm.
Our one of our largest lead generations the last couple of years is previous customer. And that's previous customer from people getting repairs are now getting their roofs replaced. The previous customers that got roofs from us now are getting gutters, whatever it is. But you build such a better rapport. And we've done a $500 repair for a guy who's refers us to his friend and they get a large roof replacement. And so again, it's back on what I said earlier. I don't feel like you're a full roofing company unless you can do repairs as well. And insurance claims love it too. Like a lot of us will try to fight the claim for replacement. It's not always a replacement. Sometimes State Farm does buy for wind damage for 15 shingles. And honestly, we all know it can be repaired and it really could be just 15 shingles, but we're going to fight them for 7 months on why it should be replaced when we could just move on and sell more roofs.
Yeah.
And I just think about time and resources, but we're partnered with Ugly Roof, a hero, and that rejuvenation part of the business has
Yep.
been really helpful too. It's increased our margins
The
a
re-
lot.
yeah, the rejuvenation will definitely help to increase the margins on the repair side. What is the difference of selling a repair versus selling a replacement? And
Um,
how do you train someone to dodge that wrench?
yeah, I would say I don't think the sales process is the same, but I think it's making sure you're matching the right product, getting the measurements of the product, making sure the roof is repairable. Because sometimes the homeowner's like, oh, I don't want nothing but a repair, and they put their foot down. And I talked to a lady yesterday about that, and she's got huge granular loss all over the house. It's crazy. And she's like, I just want you to do the repair part. And I'm like, ma'am, I'd hate for you to spend in a State Farm paying to repair a roof. I hate for you to pay $4,000 now, and then they're going to drop you in a year and you got to get the roof replaced for 20, and so it's just knowing when to have those conversations. I look for 3 major issues. Usually if the roof has 3 major issues or more, it can't be repaired, needs to be replaced. But if it's customer calls out and there's a leak around the chimney, we can sell chimney flashing. So knowing, teaching the rep what type of flashing is going back, what's going underneath there. Are we replacing rotten decking? Is there damage on the actual chimney going up? Is it stone, stucco, or brick? So they just have to know the process and the components. They got to know a lot more about construction, in my opinion, than selling a
Yes.
system. To sell a system, it's like, all right, we tear it off and we put down new ice and water, drip edge, felt shingles, and you can have a new roof homeowner. So versus like, all right, we got to remove a square here. Here's what we're using. Here's what we're going back with. Is the color going to look different? Having those conversations with the homeowners, they're not upset that the colors, the old roof is 10 years faded.
Yeah. So how do you get that newer rep skill set up to that level, that the knowledge level that it takes to sell that repair? What's that process for you?
We teach them how to measure, and then we have we use the NTS measurement sheet a lot. We teach them a lot about the different products. We're a GF contractor, but we're not just teaching about GAF. We're showing them what OC looks like, AKO. We're teaching about all the other shingle manufacturers out there. And they do a lot of ride-alongs with the veterans too, following them along on repair leads and seeing what that looks like, and how they're inspecting for the leak, what they're looking for in the attic, because the thing with a roof, like we could have a leak right here above my head, Jim, but it could be coming 25 feet up from the ridge. So,
Mm-hmm.
and this house got spray foam. So how do you inspect for that? And how do you look for that? So we just stay training. We just stay in front of them. I want to teach them something every single meeting. I think
Yeah.
it takes time too. It's trial by fire.
Yep. And then how much time is enough time to you for someone, right? Like, hey, we've been working with you. You've been in all these sessions. You've been doing the ride alongs. You've been doing this. It doesn't seem like you're getting it. When is that for you?
Um, I'd say they should be trained to kind of be out on their own, but then just supervise after a month, right? After a month, they should have enough training to kind of go out on their own. But they're going to run things through us. They're going to be like, hey, I'm about
Yep.
to sell this. Let me, can you prove it for me? And we will, or we'll ask them some more questions. So I think it takes someone like 90 days to feel really comfortable in what they're doing, what they're selling. If it's after 90 days and it's still like every conversation is their first day, then they're not grasping information, and there could be a lot of reasons why. Maybe, my opinion, if you're still asking questions like it's your first day after 90 days in this industry, or even after 6 months, maybe you don't have the passion for it. You don't want to do it.
Mm.
Because we always get, like, we want to learn about what we're into. We get addicted to like what drives us and what we like. I loved roofing so early on. I was trying to learn as much as I could.
I love that answer, because what you're saying is that they don't have a passion to learn, and there's a lot to learn, right? And if you want people on your team that are looking themselves at how to get better, and what they're on YouTube watching the videos, they're in your trainings taking notes, they're continuously learning and improving themselves. Those are, like you said, then there's not a passion for it. On the other side, if it's something that if you're not involved and you're not gonna do this, then it's not gonna work out. That's
Right.
a great answer. Yeah. How did you guys enter the PE conversations? Like, was that something you and your dad sat down and said, "Hey, this is a goal that we want"? Was it that you just started getting those emails and phone calls and decided to have those conversations? How'd that come about?
It actually came out about way earlier than it happened. So again, it's talking about what is your reason for growth? What are you trying to accomplish? And when I started business with my dad, I remember him saying to me, like, I want to help you get going. I want to help us make a lot of money. I want to go do my own thing. He's like, I don't want to work till I'm 65 and die. And my dad came from the sheet metal HVAC business, and he was later in that career, he was a foreman, but for years he was hanging ductwork, and so he was working overtime, always cut up and beat up. And so part of me being in business with my dad was totally to give back to him and help help my dad succeed in this life with me too, because he's done so much for me. And I think it was 2020, maybe 2021, but I started following Dustin Biegler with Apple Roofing. And, he ended up being a mentor of mine for a little bit. Like we used to talk weekly, and talk to him a lot. And that's around the time that Apple Roofing started acquiring roofing companies. And so he actually offered us a price then to acquire us as Apple Roofing. But the biggest, and I loved Dustin, and that was hard for me when he left.
For sure.
Left Earth for sure. But the biggest thing then was he wanted to rebrand Hero from Hero Roofing to Apple. Like it was going to be an Apple Roofing of Georgia, basically. And we were so small too that price it was going to be attractive. It was going to be nice, but it really wasn't put my dad on a let him build a lake house down in West Point and go fishing every day.
Yeah, that's right.
But it opened my mind to private equity, if that makes sense. I started looking into it, started studying it, started seeing what it takes, what multiple companies are looking for, all this stuff, And so then that was kind of our driving force, like, all right, let's get to this number in revenue so we can get a more attractive offer and in line with the right companies. And then it just continued to grow because a couple advisors would reach out. I chat back to them, I'm just, they're flooding our emails. And there was probably a Rolodex of 60 plus equity firms that reached out to us. We narrowed it down to a few. And our advisor that we ended up partnering with Omni Exteriors lives in Atlanta. So he came down, visited our office, took us to lunch. He's told us about his prior success. He had came from doing a deal in the flooring space, and they were really successful there. And there was a lot of same team members in the flooring deal that put together Omni Exteriors. So, and then the equity firm backing them is, a great firm, and they're successful and responsible for building some huge brands in our nation, actually. So all that stuff kind of just made a lot of sense. I was between them and another firm that was a lot smaller. I was really just talking to this dude that seemed like he's probably right out of graduating school with a finance degree. And he was going to make Hero a platform. But that would, what that seemed to me like is I was going to be doing pretty much everything from that. I was going to be finding other companies. I was going to be rebranding them. I was going to be doing all these different things. And I wanted a little less work than more, but I still wanted to be a part of it like I am now. So Omnia made more and more sense because they gave you the resources and provide you the resources to help you grow. And they've kept all the brands the same reputation, same business, which I think is super important. I think the companies that are attractive to private equity are attractive for a reason. They built a great brand, and for people to rebrand them, I just don't think it's smart because you lose that what the community knows, and they're not going to, if Joe's Roofing changed his name tomorrow to, I don't know, Powerhouse or whatever the name is, they're just going to think that's a new company. How are they going to resonate that unless you just spam them with mail? There's an HVAC company in our market that did the same thing. They sold and they had a really good name prior, and they sold, and now it's like Self Brothers, and that Self Brothers keeps some of this stuff in the mail about the rebrand and all that. But I was like, man, y'all messed up because y'all had a better name prior. You should change your name to theirs, And so that's a lot of things that attracted us to Omnia when it came down to like what we were looking at. But we were negotiating with a few, and I liked that they wanted to kind of build up the people that were already in place. I talked to one specific equity firm, and I know they're not doing well today, but that was one of the first conversations. I was like, hey, I have a GM. I'm still She's still training. She's newer to the role, but she's been with us for years now. And he was like, "Oh, don't worry about that. We're bringing on new management." I said, "You know what? I'm not going to have this conversation any further because nobody wants you to partner and then you change your whole team where you fire everybody.
Yeah.
So it was quite the opposite for us. We were able to empower people, give them performance shares, and pour back into them and put them in the positions they need to be in.
Yeah. So if you don't like your team, then go that route.
Yeah, yeah. If you plan on moving out of state, and you don't go. I go to church with some of our employees, and I didn't want to screw them over. Really big
That's
people,
right.
like I didn't want
Yeah.
them to see me at the grocery store and hate me. So,
So how can others be strategic about this? Now that you've gone through the process, you've gone through the due diligence process, which is like there's a lot to that. That's a whole another thing on it in its own. But like going through it, what are the top kind of 2-3 things that you're like, yeah, this is what if I was to start all over again, even just having starting those beginning conversations all over again, what are some of those things for you?
um, that's a lot. It's a lot of question. Then the biggest one
Hmm.
that could be strategic is the hire me as a consultant coach. No, I'm just kidding, but
There you go.
that's something that I have a passion for, is like helping people build up to get ready if they want to sell, if that's their thing. But I think looking back on it, our due diligence was pretty long because I was doing it myself mainly. They had someone representing them. But I didn't have anybody really represent me because I wanted to, one, learn how to do it and save that cost. But not having all my ducks in a row, not having everything, the system set up the right way. We were a cash basis business prior to
Mm,
transaction. So once you get to a certain business size, you really want to flip over to accrual. Equity firms are looking for accrual businesses overall. So I think that would be a big thing, is being an accrual. Next thing is they look for W-2 employees too. I think if you're small, it's nice to have 1099. It's easy. It's cheaper for you. But if you're growing to partner, you know, uh, W-2 employees make your business worth a little bit more money, versus them having, because they're going to do it I look at, like, there's things they're going to do, after the transaction. It's better to have it done before, make your business more streamlined and worth more money to them prior to the transaction. So, W-2 sales reps and W-2 staff, I think is an important thing. And then having like just all your processes in place, the way you sell, having a really good system, having all that mapped out and lined out, and how you construct business, having your reports very clean in QuickBooks or whatever system you're using. So when you go to have to send them, because due diligence is they're at, it's 8 people asking the same question 5 different times, from 5 different ways. And you're like, man, I already sent this report out. Like, ask him for it. You're going to get tired of doing that. But I would even make a folder, like, with the top reports you need. If
yeah.
someone asks for it, put in the folder because they're going to ask for it again, so you can get to it quickly. But just having and like you said, you have a team, because the business was still operating during this, and I was like a ghost to my team. Luckily, I had, managers in place to continue to run Hero while I was doing this. But, I think just being strategic and being prepared when it comes to negotiating price, hold them to what they want to what they want to offer you. They offer you a multiple, and if your numbers drop by 10%, try to go back to that same number.
Yeah.
Keep the number in mind. So a lot of people are scared to negotiate, but I think you're attractive for a reason.
That's right, for sure. Know what you want first too. Like when I know you talked about that a little bit ago, more about like understanding what you want in your business. Do you want that super profitable, low overhead type of business that Navy SEAL friend of yours is running? Or do you want to build something that's sellable to these PE firms? What's where do you see like what's the best advice that you could go give to contractors going into 2026?
Stay consistent. Stay consistent with your process, stay consistent with your marketing, stay consistent with the way you're going to business. Don't take your foot off the gas, because I think our market is going to be comparable to last year. I think we're going to still have a little bit of a down year unless we get some crazy weather. So I think we have to use all of our resources to put in place. But I think it's a good year to hold tight. Negotiate with your suppliers. And they hate for me to say that, but I love who I buy from. But if somebody comes in and gives me a cheaper price, I go back to who I buy from, and I'm like, hey, look at this price list. Can you match it? Guys, we got to look at our business, and if there's something you can move the needle 1% a month, like that adds up to thousands of dollars into the year. Something we did, we were paying a third-party dumpster company $150,000 a year for roll-offs. I mean, we're doing a lot of projects, 1,000 projects, $150,000 a year in roll-offs. What did we do? We went and bought our own roll-offs, and we promoted our project manager to now he drives the roll-offs, and we saved $100,000. But think about that's 2 people's salary. So there's
That's right.
a great entrepreneur, a great business owner can look back at their business and see all the holes and how do we fix those. All right, what's going wrong here? So I think you just have to stay consistently working on the growth and continue to be a problem solver. How do we move the needle? Because this is one of those years you move the needle 5%, you're going to have thousands of extra dollars back. But negotiate with who you're working with. Stay on top of your labor. And I think the biggest thing is be consistent. I talk about this a lot with expectations and standards. A lot of us have expectations, but then we deviate from the standard. Like, I think the standard needs to be set. Like, here's the standard. Here's how we're going to do this year. Here's our sales process. We're going to do this. We're going to do this no matter what. The expectation is we're going to close more jobs. But if I don't close Miss Mary, after following the process, I'm not going to change it. Like, I'm going to stay on that standard. I'm going to work on improving that standard. The thing about Kobe, man, he practiced whether he won or lost the game. Like, that was his standard. You know what I mean? Like, you think about that book, Relentlessness. Like, he did not deviate from his standards. And that's the biggest thing that's really helped me grow is I've tried not to deviate from what we need to do.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for your time today, Nick. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.